Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission's quarterly board meeting. My name's Keith Gertz. I'm the regional director for DEC, and I also serve as the board chair. And as is customary, I like to start things off by introducing the executive director and the rest of the board members. So, to my right, representing City of Albany, is Brad Glass. To my left is Chris Hauver, the executive director. To Chris' left is Jessica Otney Mahar from the Nature Conservancy. To her left is Elaine Balchillian from New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Next to her is Harvey Alexander, citizen rep. Next to Harvey is Steve Rice, another citizen rep. Next to Steve is Mike Lyons, representing the town of Colony. And next to Mike Lyons is Nancy Pearson, another citizen representative. Going around is Peter Barber from Guilderland. And last and certainly not least, John Brust, also citizen representative. First order of business is to consider the meeting minutes from the last board meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, we're going to open the meeting to comments from the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Darwin?
Darwin, do you want to speak?
At this point,
Sure.
I'm with the Friends Group, Darwin Rosa, and I'm covering for Richard Naylor, our board president. Just a couple of comments to open with, some very positive things. The Friends have been involved with a lot of things during this quarter. In particular, we were pleased to support the Lupin Festival with the welcome table. As all of the buses were arriving, we were welcoming and orienting people. We've been very, very involved with the spring group of schools that have been attending trips to the Pine Bush, especially those for reimbursing bus trips. Very pleased to support that program and to continue that. Our fund is strong, and we hope to continue more fundraising so we can increase that fund. And a third element that we're really, really proud of is to help out the commission with the purchase of software for the commission a couple of months ago. We are a not-for-profit, so we are eligible to purchase software from the Tech Soup Company. They are really software, not soup. They allowed us to purchase software about $1,080 worth of software, which was really the equivalent to the commission if they were actually buying it for close to $20,000 or more, I understand. So it's a substantial saving, and we were eligible to be able to do that, and we were glad that we could.
Bravo.
That's it, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of the things that the Friends is able to help with, and as a public entity, we can't do that. So as you can see, that's a really big support. Thanks, Darwin.
Okay, moving on to reports. I just wanted to make a quick mention of the properties that we're in the process of acquiring. For the Pine Bush, there's 3 parcels that are being held by the Nature Conservancy that are all under appraisal review. And then there's 3 other parcels that are being held by the Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy, and they're in various states of the process. One we're waiting on the closing papers, another we've got an approved GA56, and the third GA56 is pending approval. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. They're moving along slowly but surely. Now, is there anybody on board who has anything to report? Okay. So we'll move it over to Chris.
Okay, thanks. I'll give you a couple of highlights, but I'll always direct you to look at the update in the board packet. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, as always, in all the departments. So please look at that if you haven't looked at it already. I'd like to introduce Patty McLaughlin. Patty McLaughlin is our finance and office coordinator, and she has a sign-in sheet. If you didn't sign in, please do. You can pass it around. So a few things, just going back to the Friends. The Friends actually sponsor the Science Lecture Series, which is something that we do on a monthly basis here. We have it in this room. And again, it goes back to the audience development plan, focusing on providing more opportunities for people in one of our target markets, more specifically adults. There's one tonight on the Carner Blue Butterfly by Steve Fuller, Dr. Steve Fuller out of New Hampshire, who worked on, he actually did his PhD work here in the Pine Bush Preserve, where he did what they call mark release recapture. So he captured Carner Blues and used a Sharpie and put numbers on their wings. And was looking at whether or not they could get across 155 or the thruway, and if, you know, what barriers were considered, and obviously the thruway is a complete barrier. 155 is considered a moderate barrier. Just a couple other things. Erin Kyle, I don't know if she's here. There you go. Hi!
I'm doing a little behind the scenes over here.
She and her staff finally found the Truax burial grounds after searching for, how many years have we been doing that? A long time.
We have been, yes.
So they found the gravestones. This is property that we acquired working with the Nature Conservancy and DEC probably 15 years ago. It's off of Kings Road, and it's within this wooded area. It's pretty obscure, but they found all the gravestones, and they're going to go back. They're going to go back and document it more. But it was a pretty exciting find.
Chris, give us more details. What is, I should know.
Truax.
Yeah.
So there was the Truax. So the old Kings Highway ran from Albany right through the Pine Bush to Schenectady. It was like the main travel route, not necessarily a safe route for people because it wasn't safe. And there was the Truax family. Talk about
That's a good explanation.
talk about really defining it clearly for you, right? So
I'm sorry I asked.
I know, you usually are. But the Truax family ran a tavern, and that tavern served people that would go back and forth on the Kings Highway.
Gotcha. There's a sign out there, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
so
there a Truax
there's
sign?
one of the official state
Yeah.
signs.
I usually go at 60 miles an hour through there, so I just see the word, but
I know. So it was pretty. It's an exciting thing.
all right.
So it's their family plot.
Their family plot.
How do you
All right.
spell it, Chris?
Taverns almost always had people, someone would be sick and they'd leave them there. So tavern graveyards almost always had other people in it as
You
well.
go to the
that's right.
tavern to die?
Well, no, but if you're sick and
happened to
you're
me a few
traveling,
times.
you have to remember it took a while to travel. So if somebody's sick, they would leave them at the tavern rather than having to carry them on, have them walk or do horseback or something. So
Going on.
almost all tavern, from that time period, virtually all tavern graveyards have other people in them as well.
Right.
That's right. Who asked how to spell it? Truax is Truax.
That was me, Chris.
And
Thanks.
what's the
Oh,
time
sure.
period for the...
I knew I heard it.
And was probably pronounced Truo it's probably French, and probably
Probably.
was originally French, and then people started saying Truax when they,
Yeah, we Americanized.
right. Possibly, we think.
Time frame? When were the grave, when...
Most
They're-
of the 18th century.
Yeah, they're in the 17th and 18th century. They go into the 1800s, don't they?
Yes, these were marked late 1700s to
Yeah.
1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'll
Are you gonna
Sounds like a
restore?
future report.
We've
Yeah.
researched that. We can help you.
maybe we should do like a report to the commission with photos.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
We should take
We can take a field
on
trip there.
Halloween.
On Halloween. All right. Let me see if there's anything else you want to know about.
I didn't suggest Halloween, that was her.
All right, just a few more things. Lupin Fest, Darwin mentioned. Lupin Fest was great again this year. We had probably 15 to 1,600 people. Great weather, thank goodness for that. That always helps with numbers. But people, we got more feedback, surveys than ever before. And of course, I think Patty worked that pretty hard because the transportation brought you back and forth. She wouldn't let people on or off the bus without filling them out. But we got a lot, it was very helpful feedback. Also new on Washington Avenue Extension, you may have seen the banners, the wayfinding banners. That also ties back into the audience development plan. Part of the study groups that Shelley did when she was here. One of the things that became pretty clear was people have no idea of the extent of the preserve. They think it's on 155 or in between or on each side of the thruway. So this starts to help with that. We're working with Peter Barber and Gilliland to do things similarly. And also, it's directional signage, wayfinding, to get you here to the Discovery Center. So despite GPS on your phone and in your car, people still have a hard time getting here, so that will help with that. And one final thing, school programs have been really, really strong. Not that they aren't always, but over 3,000 students between the last meeting in March and this meeting here at the Discovery Center. So I'll leave it at that. And Mike is going to do the technical report.
Okay. Mike, you're next with the technical committee report.
We actually haven't met in a couple months, luckily to the lack of new projects coming in. Within the city of Albany, we have an update on the landfill. The New York State DEC has approved the 2017 work plan for preserve lands. The landfill closure and restoration plan approval is pending. The Rezone Albany project, the rezone was approved by the Common Council on May 15th of 2017. Within the town of Gilliland, by act of local law, the town of Gilliland approved the project. What project is this? This is the Senior Living Center in Full Protection Area Number 3 at 145 New Carter Road. So by act of the local law, the town of Gilliland approved the project on 11 acres and zoned the remaining 39.9 acres as open space, which, and I'll quote, shall be dedicated to the town of Gilliland for future management by the Albany Pine Bush Preserve Commission, unquote, in addition to other mitigations. Okay. Within the town of Colony, update on the comprehensive plan. The CPAC meets monthly. Its next meeting is June 21st at 6 p.m. at the Colony Public Operations Center. And 8 Rupee Way, which is located in section area number 52A. A new concept reducing the number of lots from 52 to 44 has been submitted to minimize the interference to buffering around the wetlands of the state and federal. Improved emergency access services and road widening have been part of that reduction number of lots. A revised concept also removes the stormwater management areas from lands to be conveyed and protected to the town colony. We're looking at approximately 59 to 60 acres set aside with that project. Let's see, 251 Morris Road, Precision Engineering, located at in full protection area number 53. This is over by where the former Agway used to be, Curry, Morris, and Kings Road. A revised 2-lot subdivision. This is a commercial subdivision. Proposal on 27 acres. Parcel with full protection surrounded by Curry, Kings, and Morris Road is now being considered by the applicant. Plans submitted prior to the spring wildlife surveys. We have not yet received any results of the spring surveys. The new application was 100 Morris Road. It's an office warehouse proposal located in the full protection area of 35A. The planning board review is pending. It's actually scheduled for June 20th for site plan review. That was interesting because although it's in a full protection area, it's former industrial, small industrial site surrounded by other industrial sites. So the letter that came from the technical committee was relatively minimal. The Woodlawn Preserve, ongoing cooperation between the commission and partners of Woodlawn, a $50,000 carve-out of the Commission Environmental Protection Fund for the 2016-17 appropriation was directed to the city of Schenectady to support basic improvements. The city released an RFP for survey work and it chose a contractor that began in May. Most of the funding will go toward the survey, with some to go to boundary posting materials. The city will create signage for the sign shop. Additional jersey barriers have been installed to control illegal ATV use. In 2017-18, the Environmental Protection Fund budget has a second $50,000 carve out has been designated to the city. Planning for these funds will occur in the coming months with contract establishing with New York State education staff has been providing programs at Woodlawn Elementary School since January 2017. Conservation staff will create a draft working plan for the main preserve property by April 2018. And that's all we have to report from the technical committee.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Next, we have Lisa Anthony with the financial report.
Good morning. The first report in our packet, this represents just 1 month of April, so it's kind of boring this time. Statement of financial activities. We have revenue. Dues and contributions are close to budget for the month of April. Government grant income is directly related to expenses and is slightly under budget. Mitigation fees are 0 for April. Lease revenue is on budget, and other revenue is 88% of budget. These are merchandise sales and program fees. Total revenue came in at 98% of budget through the month of April. Moving on to expenses, personnel and fringe are 98% of budget for April. Travel and training is slightly under budget. Contractual is on budget for the month of April, and communications and occupancy are both at 98% of budget. Supplies and equipment are 97% of budget, and other expenses are slightly under budget. So overall, both our revenue expenses they came in at 98% of budget for the month of April, giving us a net income of $2,100. Questions on that? On to statement of net assets. Our cash and cash equivalents decreased due to an increase in spending for April. Our conservation and land reserves remained the same. Grants receivable increased due to money owed from DEC for April, and this has been paid. Accounts receivable remained almost the same. Inventory remained the same. Prepaid expenses are 0, and this is due to the timing of year-end expenses that fall into the next fiscal year. Investments increased $54,000 due to a positive gain in all 3 funds. Capital assets remain the same, and deferred outflows remain the same. And this is our GASB 60 that comes from our retirement system. Total assets increased $36,000 over last year due to an increase in grants receivable and investments both. On the liability side, accounts payable and accrued expenses decreased due to a reclassification of a rent payment that we held for April. Deferred revenue remained the same, and New York State pension liability remained the same. Again, this is GASB 68 that comes from our retirement system. Total liabilities decreased slightly over last year due to a decrease in payables. Capital assets remained the same. Reserved assets remained unchanged, and unreserved assets increased $56,000, giving us an increase of $56,000 with a positive NOI of $2,000 and investments of $54,000. Any questions? Okay. On to the investment summary, which is a very good month. Reserve fund had a positive performance of 0.6% in April, and both the Discovery Center endowment and endowment has positive performance of both 1.05 and 1.06 gain. Any questions on it? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, let's move on to the action items.
Okay. The first one, action item A, is an updated operating budget for the current fiscal year that we're in. You remember we passed a budget in December of 16 for the current fiscal year, and that was based on $2.425 million from the EPF. The actual EPF appropriation was $2.625, so that's an increase of $200,000. Additionally, and I can run down the lines for you. If you look at it, the draft budget is in the board packet right after action item A. The very top, if you look under revenue, the very first number in the very left-hand column Federal grants, there's $150,000. That's new. We just found out that we're getting a $150,000 grant from the U.S. Forest Service for hazard mitigation and fuels management, most of which will be poultry removal, mowing, basically all the things that we do already for habitat work or for prep for fire. So that's a good thing. The next line below that, the 2.717, that includes the 200,000 increase from the EPF for this fiscal year, and we rolled over 92,000 from last year that we didn't spend. This is something new. DEC is now allowing us, if we have unforeseen circumstances like weather when it comes to doing habitat work, or contractors that just don't get the job done here in the Discovery Center, we can roll it over. So 92,000 of that rolled over from last year. Going down further, if you look at mitigation fees, 240,000. That's a decrease from what we budgeted back in December of 380,000. That's because the city is pulling back on how much trash they're taking in. So that's 140,000 decrease. So a total increase of 302,000. So where's it go? Going under expenses, if you look at salaries and benefits, that line went up by 45,000, which is about 2.5%, 2.4%, and that's based on a budget bulletin from the Division of Budget requiring salary increases that we didn't incorporate in December. And I have a copy of that budget bulletin. If anybody wants it, I can email it. John, would you like a copy of that? No, okay, check it. I can send it, seriously, I can send it to anybody who'd like it. And then going down two more lines under contractual. Contractual went up by 249,000. Remember, that includes the 150 that we got from the federal government. And the only other increase is under marketing and promotion, $12,000, and that was primarily for those banners that you saw for production, installation of those banners on 155. So basically, we have 302 in income, bless you, Rick, 306 in expenses. So the budget basically is just down by about 4,000, leaving a bottom line of $4,600. Any questions on the detail? Does that help? Steve?
You know, one of the line items that jumped up this year, not in the difference between the proposed and the actual budget, but is the community engagement advertisements, you know, jumped up quite a bit, and I'm wondering what, there must be a plan there.
Under marketing and promotion?
It's under, I think it's under contractual.
Yeah, it's the last,
Engagement.
it's 105,000.
Oh, yes, because if you look, go all the way to the right,
Yeah,
under the last year's budget, see it's 54,000?
yeah.
Isn't, Lisa, help me, because we combined,
We moved advertising events, PR. We reclassified a lot of our general ledger accounts. So if you look throughout this,
it's in,
we redefined advertising events, community engagement, which we used to have PR there. And then we had some of the printing that's in-house. We have a new line item called production and fabrication. This is for our displays, exhibits, and graphic design fees, which is all part of that. So we have less expenses. If you look up at printing and photo, that went from 35 to 10,000, so we rolled that into the bottom. And then we have printing and fabrication that we added for.
So it's less that there's a new initiative there, and
No.
more it's just a revision
A
of
reclassification.
yeah, and it's also, it falls under, if you look under office and other
Office
supplies.
Yeah,
It
there's
was $100.
$30,000 less there. So we
That's a
just,
good question.
yes, we reallocated and created new accounts so they were more, they reflected what we did more.
And it's, primarily goes back to staff and how that, when they budget and how they classify things when they get invoices in, so it makes sense. So, any other questions? Okay.
I have a motion to consider the updated operating budget. Okay, second? Second. All in favor?
Thank you. Okay, action item B is updating our policies and procedures manual. There's basically there's two reasons for the update, and I only included the 4 pages of the changes in your board packet, so you can see what those changes were. And it's specifically on the very first page is changing the definition of what a full-time employee is versus part-time, because it wasn't in alignment with another section, which is a couple pages after, which is called an allowable reduction in work schedule. So staff are allowed to reduce your work schedule by up to 30%, i.e. you can be a full-time employee and get your benefits, your health benefits, etc., working 70% or more. Well, that doesn't fit with what we defined as a full-time employee. Full-time employee was defined as 80% or more. So in talking to some other agencies, they use either one, and the recommendation to me from legal counsel was make it the 70%. You know, it's not often that you're going to have to deal with it because we're providing that benefit anyways. So that's what the change is. That's the only significant change. And then at the end is the definition of Tier 6 under retirement. It actually defines how much percentage comes out of your contribution rate based on your salary, but it changes every year. So we're eliminating that. So you don't have to update your policies and procedures on an annual or semi-annual basis. So we just have the website, the link there, and that's where you get your information. So those are the changes. Makes sense? Any questions?
All right. Have a motion to consider the updated policies and procedures manual.
I'll make a motion.
Kelly? Thank you, Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, action item C, the last one. This you are, I'm sure, familiar with this from the past. Every June we do this. We have to adopt a series of documents as part of compliance of being a public authority, part of the Public Authorities Law. So the first one is an assessment of internal controls, and there's a statement that follows the action item that has that statement, and that ties back in directly to the audit. The second one is the annual report on prompt payment, on our prompt payment policy. Our prompt payment policy requires that we have that we pay our bills basically within a 30-day period. So you have to therefore have a statement saying that you have complied with your prompt payment policy. You like this, Peter? Yeah. I'm looking at both Peters. So there's a statement saying, yes, we did comply with our prompt payment policy for fiscal year 16-17. Then there is just a link, the URL for the annual procurement report for 16-17. That's in Paris. And I have a copy of it. It's 38 pages. That's why I didn't send it to you last year. This year, you're welcome to it. I can send it to you as a PDF. But it's what we have to report to the state as on all of our procurement under our contracts. And then finally is the annual report, the financial summary, which is also what we report to Paris. With revenues, expenses, and the change of net assets. That's that sheet. And thank you, Lisa, for that. Are there questions on this? Any of those documents? No. Okay.
All right, so I have a motion to consider the public authority compliance document.
Yes, I'll make that.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, we're going to hear from Wadesky and Company with regards to the 2016-17 audit of the commission.
So you have these at your place setting, these two documents?
Okay, there's two deliverables as a result of our audit. The commission's fiscal year ended March 31st, 2017, so that was our audit date. We conducted our audit back in May, issued draft reports to management, and then had a full presentation to the Finance Committee last week on June 9th. The first document I wanted to talk about is just the one in the letter format. I'm just going to hit the most important items in these documents. That letter is a required communication between us as your external auditors and you as the entity charged with governance and oversight of the organization. Really, the two most important things in here that I'd like to point out are on page 2. First of all, there's a header in there called difficulties encountered in performing the audit. As you can see, we're pleased to report that we did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. Any time we requested information, source documents, etc., we were provided with answers to the questions. And really, we're able to move through our audit and get corroborating responses, etc., as we went through our audit. The other thing I think it's important for the board to understand, under the header corrected and uncorrected misstatements, we did not make any adjustments to the numbers that were presented to us. So why I think that's important to you, in your regular meetings where you're getting financial information from Lisa, we did not make any changes to those numbers as a result of our audit at the end of the year. And then the final thing at the bottom, other findings or issues, we didn't have any. So I think that covers the required communications. If there's any questions on that report, now I'll go to the next document, which is the approximately 30-page document, which is the financial statements and the compliance report. Again, I'm not going to go through everything that's in here, but I will tell you what's in here and at least give you the highlights. On pages 6, 7, and 8 is our report. It's Wojcicki and Company's report on the Commission's financial statements. Management is responsible for preparing the financial statements. Our job is to express an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. Our opinion, which is on page 7 in the opinion section, was an unmodified opinion, or in layman's terms, what's called a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can put on your financial statements. And essentially what we're saying here is that the financial statements that follow, including all the notes, are correct in all material respects. We also issue, I believe Chris alluded to it in his presentation, on page 8, there is another report that we are required to issue because we do perform your audit in accordance with government auditing standards. We do test, we are responsible for looking at internal controls as part of our audit, and we have another report on page 25 and page 26, which speaks to that. We did not identify any matters that needed to be communicated, so in essence, you have a clean opinion on the Yellow Book report or the Government Auditing Standards report as well. If you had, I know everyone received this in advance, I would just tell you that if you had only time to look at 5 pages of this, I would look at pages 1 through 5, which is management's discussion and analysis. And right in the middle of page 1, the financial highlights for the year. The total assets of the commission increased year over year by approximately $460,000. The change in the net position was an additional $265,000, meaning that your revenues outpaced your expenses in the most current fiscal year that we audited. And the unrestricted net position of the commission was approximately $7.3 million as of the end of the fiscal year, as of our audit date. So it's the financial condition is very healthy. And again, the opinion that we rendered as a result of our audit was unmodified, or the highest level of assurance that we can put on the Commission's financial statements. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise,
Well, thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Okay, next we're going to hear from Key Bank on the annual report on investments. Mike Duran and Peter Marisi.
morning, everyone. My name is Peter Marici. I'm the relationship manager here on the Albany Pine Bush account. Thank you for having us. I'm here with my colleague Mike Duran. Mike is going to go through the investment portfolio. If you have any questions at the end, please feel free to ask. Sounds good.
Thanks, Peter. We've passed out some of the decks to the group here, and to follow in Matt's kind of give you a quick overview of the investments. There's a lot of information here. It's about 35, 40 pages. I won't necessarily go through each of those numbers of pages today, but if there's any questions or anything in particular that you'd like me to cover, please point it out and I will be happy to do so. First off, just from a fiduciary standpoint, I want to point out that I have in my hands a copy of the most recent investment policy of the Pine Bush and of the Pine Bush Commission, and I want to point out that all the investments held within the portfolio are within the guidelines and within the scope of the investment policy statement. So from a fiduciary standpoint, all is well. So you can check that box. One suggestion I always make at the meeting here is a good idea to review the investment policy on an annual basis and make sure that it's up to date. To my knowledge, it is, and to my purview, it is up to date. Thank you. Jumping to the deck and the investments, what I will cover, again, there's a lot of information here regarding the specific investments for all three of the portfolios. To give you an idea, we manage the endowment portfolio. We also manage the cash reserves and the Pine Bush Discovery Center endowment portfolio. What I'll reference, because they're all somewhat similar, is the specific endowment, so the larger portfolio for the overall endowment fund. If you look in the deck, if you want to make a jump to maybe page 7, we'll give you the performance of the portfolio. For the group, the strategy employed here is a balanced objective, meaning we're going to have roughly 50% in equity, 50% in fixed income. The idea there is, over the long term, we want to maintain a responsible allocation, so we don't want to have too much in one side or the other. But if you look at page 7, you'll see that the portfolio returns over the last 5 years have averaged annualized about 7% over the last 5 years. That's 7% each year. Even going back 1 year, and again, this report is as of April 30th, the most recent numbers, audited numbers. The 1 year numbers are about 9%, 9.2%. Again, that's on a balanced objective, so that's 50% equity, 50% fixed income, a very, very good number, but also responsible from the risk side. I think Lisa pointed out some of those numbers from the investment side have done very well over the past few years. One thing I do always like to point out and caution is when you look at these numbers, actually, if you're looking at page 7, you won't see a negative number on there. Those do occur in the investment world, so don't be fooled or thinking that those don't. The idea is to have that allocation from a responsibility standpoint correct, so that when you do have one of those negative numbers, it doesn't impact the endowment on a large basis. If you took it one page back to page 6, shows you the cash flow report. And this is it just shows three separate columns. One's got year-to-date numbers, then we've got 2016 and 2015. It talks about cash transferred in, cash transferred out. Actually, that number nets out to 0. That's simply an internal changing pockets within the portfolio. What I want to point out is, look at the last row, the last set of numbers, the ending market value. So at the end of 2015, the endowment was valued at about $2.8 million. At the end of 2016, it was valued at just under $3 million. And at the year-to-date, as of April 30th, it's about 3.13. And actually, I have the numbers as of last week's Friday's close. It's right around 3.2 million. So overall, from a fiduciary standpoint, you're doing the right things from an investment strategy standpoint. The portfolio is growing nicely. From our standpoint, it's appropriate, the balanced objective that's in place here. I wouldn't change that. I think the Finance Committee does a fine job of reviewing these investments on a regular basis. But the numbers definitely trending in the right direction, so the backstop is there for the group to continue the good work that we're hearing about today. Is there anything in particular that anyone would like me to cover, either regarding the deck or regarding anything from the investment side in particular? Be happy to answer those. Or thoughts or comments?
No smiles all around, but thank you.
Yeah, always glad to see them. Right. There are frowns occasionally, but over the long term, the idea is to keep the smiles in place. So. And just to point out, actually, an interesting note I was noting sitting down, as of tomorrow, Friday, June 16th, that'll mark actually 8 years that we've been working with the Commission. I looked at those numbers too, around 6.5% on an annualized basis over the past 8 years. But I think on behalf of Peter and the team, we really appreciate the opportunity to work with the group, and we're happy to help out in any way we can.
Yeah, thank you very much for working with us. We appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Turn it over to the next act. Yes. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Sure. Would you like to introduce the next presenter?
Love to.
All right.
We are really excited today to have Farnsworth Middle School here to present to you the results from the 3M grant, the Student Scientist Project. Dr. Fierro over here is their teacher. He has been working tirelessly with us on writing the curriculum and working with the students throughout the year, and these students have put in 110% effort. They've really been working hard on this, and with that, I'm going to turn it over. We'll get the projectors turned on and we'll hear their presentation.
Hold to the right or left.
That's our trust screen.
Well, Jackie taught me that last week.
Hi, I'm Chloe Marco. I'm Sean Niemeyer. The Albany Pilot Preserve is a one-of-a-kind living classroom where students' curiosity furthers a greater public understanding of this globally rare ecosystem. Thousands of elementary school students and middle school students visit the Pine Bush each year to participate in hands-on research and habitat restoration activities. As the Pine Bush Preserve Commission works to increase STEM programming, new opportunities for students to apply authentic learning opportunities are being created.
We currently lack adequate data on climate variables, including air temperature and the relative humidity across the topography of the pine bush. This information can further our understanding of species distribution within the preserve, as well as potential areas of habitat refuge for species feeling the effect of climate change. To be able to do this, the Friends of the Pine Bush applied for a grant from 3M and received funding to support student research. The funding was used to supply equipment for research. FMS was the first school to carry out this research. We would now like to present to you our results.
Hi, I'm Monica O'Leary. And I'm Bailey Erden. Hiawatha 7A from Farnsworth Middle School took a field trip to the Albany Pine Bush. Our chaperone was our awesome science teacher, Dr. Alan Fier. The purpose of the trip was to find the best microclimate for lupin to grow. Carnivore butterflies are an endangered species that can be found in the pine bush. The only food that they eat is the lupin plant and may be becoming too warm for it to grow.
To take our trip, we went in 4 groups. Each class split into 2 groups to complete this task. One group climbed up the north side of the dune, and one group climbed up the south side of the same dune.
The Pine Bush Commission taught us how to take temperatures and wind speeds at 3 different points of the dune. We retrieved data from the data logger, and we were looking for the right temperature. The place with the coldest temperature is where we would hope to grow lupin later if the temperature in the pine bush continued to rise.
We went down the north and south sides of the dune, and when we got to the bottom, we compared data and found the point of lowest temperature. That place might eventually be the place where we can grow lupin for the carnivore butterflies to eat.
We plugged the data tracker into the computer and we examined all of the data.
This graph represents Dr. Fierro's blood pressure during science class. Also known as data from the data logger. It recorded temperature and humidity every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day.
We had a great time on our field trip, and when we got back to school, we had a lot of work to do. Hi, my name is Abby Cassidy. When we got back, we took a whole 80 minutes to make handmade graphs. Here we have a single handmade graph made by Maya Reagan of the data on the data sheets we received. It is a graph of the temperature at the top, middle, and bottom of one side of a dune on one day. On the x-axis we have military time, and on the y-axis
we have the temperature. In these graphs, we looked for the lowest temperature appears at either the top, middle, or bottom of the dune. Here we have two handmade graphs made from the same data by Maya Regan and Samara Ismail. You can see how our graphs vary depending on what the individual used as a scale for the y-axis and where they put their decimals. They also have different corresponding colors for top, bottom, and middle. We were able to check our work by comparing the graphs. As you can see, they're almost identical, so I think we did very well. Finally, we have Samara's handmade graph next to a computer graph with the same data. Even with Dr. Fierro having to set it up, it was still much quicker than making them by hand. They show the same data just a little bit differently. The computer graph is a bit wider and shorter. However, they are again very similar, so I think we did very well.
Hi, I'm Maya.
And I'm Anya.
Each student received a chart like this one that explained the temperatures for every hour in one day on one side of one dune of the Albany Pine Bush. The three parts of the dune, bottom, middle, and top, are represented with times throughout the day. The title of this chart, KBEN 812, means the north side of the Carner Barrens East Dune, with August 12th the date on which the information was collected. This was important to our work because only a couple students got to use each different chart and compare their results. Two different sides of the dune and all the days throughout a month were analyzed.
We figured out the mean temperatures of low, middle, high location on all the dunes and put them in the table using Google Sheets. We also showed all the minimum and maximum temperatures at the 3 locations. We used Google Sheets to create a graph based on the chart we had made. This is an example of one. We then analyzed the graphs and got these stories. That's what Dr. Fierro calls them. The stories explain what is happening in the graph. One of the stories is from 0 to 500, or 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'm very glad the data logger was there to do the work because I wasn't getting up that early. Anyway, the bottom dune was coldest by half a degree Celsius. Our class is also hoping to analyze the relationship between the temperatures on the dunes and their weather.
Hi, I'm Amy. Each student had to analyze and work on one dune for the days that were analyzed. As you can see, more than one student did each, so that we could check our work. If there was a difference, the students had to go back and make corrections. This data is used by Natalie that you will be seeing next. The top part of the chart is the north side, and the bottom of the chart is the south side. Both Anushree and Ram and I had the same data. The data was supposed to be the same. We had to round our data to the nearest 10, but our math must have been a little bit off because our answers were all over the place. Sorry, Mr. Rocky.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm Zena. This graph represents new plan for the roller coaster at the Great Escape. Oh, wrong presentation. This graph represents daily maximum temperatures of Carner, Blue East, North Side. Blue represents the bottom of the dune, red represents the middle of the dune, and yellow represents the top of the dune. For the majority of the 20 days, the middle of the dune had the lowest max. Only for about one day, the bottom was the coldest. This graph represents daily minimum temperatures of Carner, Blue East, North Side. For most of the days, the bottom is the coldest, but for approximately 3 days, there was a 3-way tie. This graph represents the daily mean temperatures of Carner, Blue East, dune, North Side. For the majority of the time, the bottom is the coldest, or tied the coldest with the middle. The middle was coldest for 3 days. The top of the dune was steadily the warmest throughout the end of July to the beginning of August. As you can see, from north 215 to north 221, the bottom is the coldest.
This graph represents the daily maximum temperatures at Carner Blue East South Side. The bottom of the dune was coldest for a majority of the 20 days. On the other days, there is a 3-way tie. This graph represents the daily minimum temperatures of Carner Blue East South Side. The graph shows that most of the days say the bottom of the dune was the coldest. For approximately 3 days, the bottom is tied with the middle and top of the dune. This graph represents the daily mean temperatures of Carner Blue East South Side.
For 18 out of the 20 days, the bottom of the dune was the coldest. From South 213 to South 214, there was a three-way tie. For this graph, I colored for both North and South dunes the time of lowest temperature. As you may see, the bottom of the dune was consistently the coldest in late evenings and early mornings.
When we took the temperatures at the bottom of the dune, the temperatures were equal except for the minimum temperatures. For the middle point in the dune where we took the temperature, the south was a higher temperature. As you can see, as we look at the means throughout the day, the south was also a greater temperature than the north. We can analyze from this that the south is generally a higher temperature than the north.
In conclusion, this project on the Pine Bush has been an amazing learning opportunity. I believe that we, as students, learn better by having real experiences. We had the opportunity to visit the Pine Bush multiple times while also learning about it and comparing data in class. We knew we were doing real work to help. Farnsworth Middle School is the first school in the area to participate in studies of the Pine Bush, but we hope we won't be the last. If more schools join us, we can get even more work done. We're grateful for the experience and to all the people giving us these opportunities. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for coming in and speaking to us. And thank you to Dr. Alan Fierro. At this point, we have a little recognition for Dr. Fierro because he's retiring. So Alan has worked, I've been here since 1993. Alan started working here in the Pine Bush with his students, his 7th grade students, in 1994. We started, the first work that we did in the field was the exposures for lupin to see what was eating lupin. Is it turkeys? Is it rabbits? Is it woodchucks? Is it deer? Is it everything? So that was the first project. So think of that. That was 23 years ago. So I have students that were in your class 23 years ago that still come up to me and they see me and they said, "Hey, I was in Dr. Fierro's class. That was great." So this is something you're going to remember for the rest of your life, like it or not. So with that, I just want to say thank you to Alan for all your work in the Pine Bush and for all the work that you've done with these kids for longer than that.
Only 43 years.
So I'm going to turn it over to Aaron.
All right, thanks, Chris. My earliest memory of Alan actually wasn't even here. I was student teaching at Farnsworth in 1997, and I was watching the morning announcements on TV, and this teacher comes on asking everyone to bring in milk cartons and juice cartons, and I was thinking, who is this guy, and what's doing with all these milk cartons? So later, when I started working here, I discovered those cartons were being used for pots to grow lupin in, and he was working with the students on growing lupin that they were using for restoration and for selling to the local community. And I just wanted to highlight some of Alan's many contributions. This list is far from complete, but just as a way of recognizing all that he's done here, all the contributions that he's made to the Albany Pine Bush and to science education. So over the past 23 years that I've known of Dr. Fierro, he's been researching the pine bush and the species that live here. He's been writing articles about the pine bush with his students. He and his students have done invasive species management, such as aspen girdling and honeysuckle pulling. They've constructed deer exclosures and monitored lupin, raised native plants, partnered with other schools, including the Garden from the Stars project. They've produced publications, including poems and a butterfly field guide. They've used the pine bush as inspiration for songs, poems, children's books, videos, short stories, and even cakes. They've done a lot of outreach to the Guilderland community to raise awareness of the pine bush. He's brought current research from the commission into the classroom. Students have looked at photo trap data. They've participated in different programs like Karner Blue Butterfly Monitoring, Habitat Watch, the student scientists that they've presented so wonderfully today, assisting with us in our writing of curricula, participating in captive rearing of an endangered species. They were the first school to do that, to actually rear Cardinal blue butterflies, which they did a wonderful job with. They developed kits that schools use throughout the Capital District. They have organized and presented the annual Farnsworth Middle School Science Symposium, which just happened on Tuesday of this week. They've run the butterfly station at Farnsworth Middle School for many, many years, including Pine Bush Native Garden and an organic vegetable garden. Alan volunteered for years as a board member on our Friends, the Friends of the Pine Bush Community Group. He actually took a sabbatical and spent much time here helping us with writing curriculum and also helping post curriculum online for teachers throughout the Capital District to use. And doing all that and writing grants to support his work. Countless grants, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised by him. And not only has Dr. Fierro's work benefited the Pine Bush, but certainly the thousands of the students that he has worked with, and bringing science alive, giving science real meaning to them here in the Pine Bush. So we will really miss working with you as a 7th grade science teacher at Farnsworth, but we look forward to new collaborations in the future. We're not letting you go that easily. And congratulations on your retirement. And we have a book that we put together. All of your hard work. You did a wonderful job. It was a great presentation.
Thank you. I'm not going to say much because the kids do all the work. Basically, the whole reason this worked from the beginning was that the question I asked when I came here is, what can I do to help you? And the Pine Bush Commission answered back, what can we do to help you? And it's been that kind of relationship for the 24 years we're here. It's been mutualistic, which is a word I like to use in class sometimes too. But thank you so much. It's been fun. And the kids are, as you can tell, if you give them the task, they can achieve it. I just hope we can bring more and more students to use this as a resource, because it's a wonderful resource. And thank you very much, all of you, for the 23 plus years that we've worked together.
Thank you. We have to take a test on weather, so we got to get going. Thank you again, you guys.
Thank you. Nice job.
I'm not going to go into executive session. I'm just going to talk about the business. The business. I'll talk about the rest of the legislation. So, Alan always makes me feel lazy. But that's true. I still have students that remember me, or they'll come in here and they have kids and they come into Discovery Center and they say, hey, I was out in the field with you, with Alan, when I was, what's that make them, 32?
You know, hey, Chris, one thing, I'm sure I speak for everybody, these kids did a great job.
They did a great job.
I mean, they're 7th graders, and they were just super.
Yeah.
The word, the first presenter had the word awesome in there, and I guess it's well-deserved, but it was remarkable. It's good to see, you know, you hear all the stuff about young people this, young people that, and I don't know, we're always very successful in getting new employees, young employees who are doing a good job and all that kind of stuff and communicate well, but you hear a lot of negativism. These kids are stars.
Sure they are. They're 12 years old and they present like that.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's a good testament to
and it really is.
Aaron.
It is.
The blood pressure graph is my favorite.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah, that's a classic. Good job.
So, and just to circle back, that 3M grant, one of the presenters, she mentioned that the 3M grant was written by and secured by, Darwin's still there, right? By the Friends Group. And that 3M grant ties again back into the audience development plan to do more STEM work. So go ahead, Steve.
You know, in the past, I know the board has made kind of special accommodations for people like Nick Stewart. It seems to me that there's nobody in the Capital District who has kind of done the sort of things that he's done.
Yeah.
And the kind of the commitment to preserve and put into action. And I guess I'm wondering, is there something that the board can do in terms of recognition, in terms of putting something together to honor his career at Farnsworth. I mean, it's remarkable.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, what about like an incentive for other teachers or some ongoing legacy
Some
thing?
ongoing legacy or some
know.
sort of recognition. I mean, that's very nice that have him come in and do this. And I don't know what it is and what's within our, you know.
We have room in the Discovery Room for Discovery Center for some sort of display for people to see, to talk about what the students did and that type of thing.
I don't know.
Well, usually selfless people like that, they're more interested in making sure that other people do that work. You know?
That's why I'm thinking some sort of a display saying this is what you can do, you know, as a teacher.
Why
This is what our classes have done.
Aaron's gone already. Why don't I talk to Aaron and other staff, like Wendy too, and see what we can come up with, and I can bring something back to you in September. Or not even. I mean, email makes things easier.
Well, he's not going anywhere, right?
No, he's not going anywhere. He's
So-
retiring, and he's gonna continue to work with us. He's just, you know, he's tired. You know, he's worked in the school system, and schools are a lot different than they used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Curriculum, New York State standards. So let me do that, and we'll see what we can come up with. I mean, it would be.
That's a good idea. I mean, he's influenced a lot of lives in a significant way.
I mean, it's too young to give a scholarship in 7th grade, but if we could work, I mean, maybe we could come up with a way to raise some money, goes to the Friends. The Friends then therefore provides something, like for a 7th grade student at the end of the year.
Or a teacher.
A teacher,
Or, yeah,
you
even
see,
better,
that's
a
the thing,
teacher,
like, I think,
right.
you know, what, in his remarks, he said how, we responded, how can we help you? You know, why don't we talk to him? See who's, you know, what's his next, because he's not gonna stop doing this, I don't think.
No, and there's some others,
You know,
there's other teachers there.
ways, because it is really difficult to get around the curriculum, to get these kids out in the field that much. It's incredible what he does.
Yes, it is. Well, let me talk to staff and we'll see what we can come up with. I'll keep that focus. What can we do to help foster this kind of ethic and teachers? Okay. We don't have anything to talk about in executive session. So I was just going to talk about under other business. So we've had discussions about land acquisition, some of the challenges that we've had and with funding issues. So basically, in summary, Elaine and Keith and I had a conversation with some executive staff in both agencies. It basically presented the situation that we were faced with. So remember in the past, many years ago, the Nature Conservancy was there with a revolving fund of money. When a piece of property came up and that property owner wanted to sell immediately, like many do, they could step in, they could buy the property, they would hold it, and then the state would reimburse. The Nature Conservancy, it doesn't really play that role anymore. Frankly, they don't have the funding to do that. So we have the Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy that can play that role, but they don't have the funding, the actual money to do it. But they can broker, they can do the whole transaction, do all the groundwork. And the issue is with the state, the money's there, but there's so many projects now because there's so much more money in the Environmental Protection Fund for land acquisition. There's all these projects that have been backlogged. And agency staff can't keep up with them. So if we go in today and say, here's a piece of property, we need to close on it, can we do this in 6 months? It could be 3 years out, and people aren't going to wait for that. So one of the solutions was to consider modifying our law, our legislation, to make it explicit in the language that would say the commission could hold title. For example, the Central Pine Barrens Commission in Long Island modified their legislation a few years ago to do that. So my thought would be is if we could do that with our legislation, we could play that role. We could work with the Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy. We could go into our reserves and use that money. We have a reserve account. So we would buy the property. We would pay for it. The commission would pay for it. Mohawk Hudson would help us do that. We'd hold title. Then we'd sit and we'd wait. And then have the state reimburse us. And we could do it again.
So I'm not sure I understand, what was the role of Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy?
They had...
So they would just supplement the funding that you have?
Technical. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the expertise in real property to broker transactions. Like, like looking at appraisals, any of that stuff. I mean, it's just not my skill set, so.
My only concern, I would be concerned for Pine generally, is any liabilities that come with, any potential liabilities that come with
Fully entitled.
Yeah. Which is something unfortunate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So as long as there's, you know, like when we went through the rigmarole of getting you the properties on New Carter Road, there was some questions about what's at the bottom of the hill. Is it something that leached into the ground, et cetera, et cetera. These were properties that were withdrawn that when they were on our side. You know, so as long as there's safeguards to make sure that.
Yeah, I would make sure that anything that we would do would be completely reflective of how the state would acquire property. You know, it's kind of going back to
Phase one environmentals and
Yeah.
and Mohawk Hudson would have to do that.
Yeah.
And even going to like even different levels of, if we're using an appraiser, we would use appraisers that the state uses, so they recognize that. You know, and we wouldn't even get into things if there's like quick clean type, we wouldn't even go near. It would have to be a clean thing. So it's probably something that we'll continue to have discussions about, and it's not going to happen this session because there's today and there's 3 days next week. But it might be something we want to think about for session of 18, 19, right? Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, January 18th, we start. It's a solution that would probably work, and based on recommendation from council on both sides.
Would some of the liability issues be offset if the land, once they were acquired, were immediately dedicated to the preserve land?
So that's the complicated
Dedicate
thing.
yourself?
You can. The commission can't dedicate to the preserve, because that's not, that's why it would have to transfer to DEC and then have it dedicated. And the commission can manage its own land. So if it holds title, it can manage it. But that would, yes. But that's why, you know, in a situation like this, we have to be careful. Like if there's a concern of past dumping that we're unsure of, even if a phase one doesn't show it, I think we'd shy away from it pretty quick. We wouldn't.
I think it's really the only option to make it more efficient than what it is today. It's going to get worse, not better, if we keep it the way it is now. You know, state workforce is shrinking over time. And these transactions, we just can't get around to. We just have so much on our plate. I really don't see any other viable options other than what Chris is proposing.
So I agree. The little few properties that we worked with Mohawk has been worked very well. Even when we worked with DC, they were very responsive. It was just a matter of managing and everything else. That's, you know, jumping here. So, and I know Mohawk has land to do it because we have done it.
Right, and they're, you know, I've had a conversation with them, you know, about this situation, and they're committed to doing it. And it helps them, helps their portfolio, you know, it boosts their who they are in the capital region. You know, the more people know about Mohawk Hudson, the more people that may donate, it can help their cause. So it's, you know, it's a good partnership.
Do we have a precedent of establishing like an exploratory committee or something to look into this and, you know, sort of understand what maybe the insurance implications would be, or the, what would the legislative process look like? How long would it take? What would it, you know, what are the implications of this decision, so the board could maybe have additional information and time for a proposal if that's the way they want to go?
Sure. It would probably be the executive, not the governance committee. So the executive committee would be the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. So we could do that. We could have a discussion with, actually maybe we could tie it into the audit committee, because the audit committee has 3 of those 4 people, and you're the 4th one. So maybe you could come to the audit committee and we could have, you know, a short executive committee in September we talked about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, assuming the board is interested in pursuing it as a concept.
You know, I think, I would assume that the board, the only concern would be is what is our liability
Yeah.
risk? What is that? And I think we could have the conversation in committee and take it to the council and get some answers. Okay. I don't know that we need a resolution to do that. Just have a committee meeting and then we report at the September board meeting. So that is
September 21?
The commission meeting is September 21, the audit committee would be the 15th, Friday the 15th at 9:30. Do that. Are we good? Other thoughts?
Yes, Chris, one, in our packets that was emailed to us, there was a long newspaper article about our neighbors and their concerns relative to the habitat restoration. Is there anything you want to add to that article? One thing I saw in there was a comment about our reaching out to our neighbors, and I know you guys do that, but it came across in the article perhaps that we needed to do more. But I know you do an awful lot of it, so.
Yeah, you know, an interesting update, Joel's here, is that individual, we have done more. And, you know, one of the things that we're doing is this chat with staff. I think some of you are familiar with that. So we're trying this people can come in, and whenever somebody complains or has an issue or is just hopefully just more interested, we say come to the next chat with staff. So the first one we had was in March. The second one is a week from today, 7 o'clock here in this room. And then we're going to try 2 more in the next half of the year on Saturday. So try 2 in the evening, 2 on Saturdays. So opportunity to have people come in, express any concerns, ask questions, whatever. But going back to that article, Chris Churchill's article, the individual who was focused on in that article called us recently, as in 2 days ago, Joe? 2 days ago. Yeah. So he called and expressed concern again, particularly because of the noise of the equipment. And I understand they are within the appropriate hours. I understand that. One of the things that he said is, you know, we notified the people who are adjacent to their backyards. This guy lives on the other street or a couple streets over. We could have gone further out. So we know that. But so Joel had a long conversation with this individual, and at the end of the day, he was happy to have had the time taken to speak with him. And the one thing he'd never read the management plan, so he wanted the management plan.
Yeah.
And Joel, of course, pointed him to the website. You can look at it on the website, it's PDF, you can download it, you can print whatever you want, or just read it. And he said, I don't know how to do that. My kids, my grandkids know how to do that, I don't know how to do that. Joel says, I'll print it, I'll deliver it to you. So that day, at the end of that day, that guy got this thing hand-delivered at 4:30 in the afternoon, and he couldn't have been happier.
All right.
So little things like that, hopefully he tells his neighbors things like that.
A little personal touch.
He's not going to
yeah.
He's not going to call Chris Churchill and say, hey, guess what the Pine Bush Commission did? But if we can continue to do stuff and pay attention to, you know, we respond to every inquiry. We respond to, you know, every Facebook post that's negative. The simple response is, please come to the next chat with staff and talk to us.
I'm familiar with that.
You know, working with municipalities.
We have one project that I've been working for 10 years to make it happen. We're doing it, we got the grant money, we're out there, and this guy shows up at a board meeting and says, first I heard it. You know, like, really? I mean, come on. I mean, it's in every newspaper article, it's on the web, we have a meeting every week, blah, 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 blah. But I just want everyone to know that I know how much you guys reach out for outreach to folks, and sometimes these kind of things can't be helped.
Yeah, but you know, there's probably always more that you can do, and we talk about it. You know, we have a directors team meeting every 2 weeks, and we talk about it quite a bit. Like, what can we do better? Interestingly enough, part of the same project where this one individual is, he's in a different part of the perimeter, if you look at it that way. This one community, we're taking the trees right up to their property line. Because we went to that community, we sent this communication out to them, asked them if they, would you rather that we do this instead of leaving the buffer and then coming in 10 years later and taking it out again, disturbing you twice,
Yep.
making noise twice. And some people may want that open area.
Yep.
And there's been nobody that has said anything negative about that, is there?
There was one person, or one couple who came to the meeting, because we also offered to talk to them face to face. And there was one couple that came and they were just a little concerned about more just the process, not about the result.
That's right.
Just the noise and the dust and those kinds of things. But other than that, we've heard nothing other than positive. A bunch of people, a couple of have swimming pools, and they're thrilled because now they have sun in their pools again. And a lot of them are really very positive, or we just haven't heard anything. So,
Wait,
it's good.
there's one more good story that Joel has. So Joel's working with, I've been here for 24, Joel's been here for 23 years. So he was out in the preserve working with a contractor who has this machine picking out locusts. So there were some that were really close to the line that we didn't want to get close to because if you pull them out, or if you remove the stumps and everything else, you could pull up into their lawn. This woman comes out, I should let you tell the story.
You don't mind.
This woman comes out and asks if we could remove those because she doesn't like them because they send up suckers all throughout her yard. So the contractor said, yeah, I can do that. It might, mess up your lawn. So he removes them, no problem. She comes out a few minutes later with 2 pieces of pie. Contractor for Joel for helping out. So stuff like that it makes
the contractors
for
a lot of work at that house.
Yeah. So things like that go a long way.
Good.
And actually, the neighbor next to her was very pleased because they have a pool, and they've had shade now for years, and now it's open again. So,
Some of those, I mean, you do so much, and you have the website and all that kind of stuff. Our neighbors who are directly adjacent to our property are stewards of the property in a lot of respects.
Sure.
There's so much good science that's going on here, and I bet you they're not aware of the science at all. And I just had a thought about, for those who are direct neighbors, that every once in a while we send them a newsletter about some of the science that's happening here, because they would probably talk it up big time, because that science involves them. It's in their backyard, and they would be even better stewards. But, hey, just a thought, throw it out there.
if there's a way to do like a mailing, like a postcard mailing
I did some direct email last year that,
that we paid to do.
yep, and so people who live right adjacent to the preserve got emails kind of touting our citizen science program and science lectures. And so we can continue. Is there your update for us and whether something like taking the newsier stuff out of it, you've already kind of written it for us. It's interesting to us because we're interested in the Pine Bush. I would expect that nice little summary of, gee, we did this, we're doing that, might be a way to add to
We can incorporate more of that because that's what Wendy does monthly. We do an e-news, and it's based on this. It's based on that update.
Right, and I think but
But
whether it's...
if that e-news went out to our direct neighbors, if you have their emails, that would be cost-free, and I think publicity-wise, very rewarding.
Yeah, because the way we send it out, they have to accept it, right?
You can get it out there and stuff.
Yeah, there's both things that we do. Yes.
New kiosk, trailhead kiosk going. And there's also, some people get very used to seeing what's, at the end of the street, because some of these trailheads are literally in residential neighborhoods. And so to let people know that, you're going to see a construction truck coming in and, something coming out and something new coming in. Instead of saying, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're going to build a house. Taking down the kiosk, it must be going to build a house here or something like that.
Right.
And instead, instead it's like, oh, this is the new kiosk.
Yeah, that's in the update too. So there's all new kiosks that are going in. Contract will be signed for the production next week.
There's not much vandalism at the old kiosk.
This is a whole new design. It's a multi-panel, so we can change things out, change more information. We had a prototype of it at Lupin Fest, and we had people give us, we had a little form give us feedback, what works and what doesn't work, and what else should we add to it. Anything else you want to talk about?
Those two thoughts. One
Yep.
is going back to those gravestones.
Yeah.
We have found in parks that the restoration of gravestones is just a huge community win. Like, people love that. And, it's not really mission-centric here, but it is a great community engagement thing.
No, it ties directly, like cultural.
Cultural, okay, great.
That's part of the management plan, it's part of our, yep.
And then the second thing is, this is the first time that during that presentation with the kids that I've seen children wearing, I'm assuming those are like tick suits or something. What are they wearing?
Oh yeah, they've had those for years, the Tyvek suits.
So when he brings his children into the preserve, he's
Yes.
putting on a spacesuit?
Yeah, Tyvek suits. I think they were donated, weren't they, Joel?
I think he got a grant for them, but yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. It was for years, Farnsworth would come in and girdle aspen. You know what aspen girdling is to kill the tree. So they girdled tens of thousands of aspen trees, and they stopped coming because their parents, were concerned about ticks. So then Alan got this. You get a grant, that's right, to pay for them, or at least part of them. So that brought it back out. So now when they do research in the field, they wear them too.
Because it's really off trail.
Oh yeah, it's completely off trail.
You need it.
Yeah.
And they're lightweight.
Yeah, I guess I'm just sort of, it's another, that's a little bit of a public relations issue, right? Like to have put on.
It is the same suit you wear as this release remediation.
That's what I'm just looking at. That's the thing. It's like lead removal. That's what I see. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Chris, maybe they sell camo.
I bet the kids want to wear them.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Well, I was going to say, as a teacher, you could spot those, wherever they
there you
are
go.
very easily.
Yeah.
There's a dual purpose.
That's your uniform.
I don't look at it as
Let's not make that.
I don't look at it as a negative PR
okay.
thing. I mean, my response to that would be is if you're going to go off trail in the Pine Bush or anywhere, Thatcher Park, Grafton, any East Greenbush where I live.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
We don't do that.
You don't go off trail?
We go off trail, but nobody's putting on a Tyvek suit.
No, but you're probably putting on encouraging insect repellent or some tick protection. And I think
people
there's...
who bushwhack, right? How many people really bushwhack? If you're bushwhacking in basically anywhere from Plattsburgh south to Westchester.
So is your staff outfitted with these?
No, they wear, if they go off, most of them wear certain types of clothing, they tuck their pants in, they wear, a lot of them wear gaiters.
Right.
Within the same time. So.
It's just an interesting thought for me to think about from PPE,
It is, and that's why we encourage visitors to stay on the marked trails.
Yeah.
For any kind, not just ticks, but any biting insect, to minimize your exposure.
When they were marking one of the sales last year, I think,
Yeah.
they had the foresters had a 200 tick limit. So when they took 200 ticks off them, then we were done.
Yeah, they're done with that. Yeah.
They have a bottle full.
75 minutes.
Yeah. Why 200?
I wanted to get a factory off.
Internal. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you.
Meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, always good discussion.
Actually, no,
Hey.
nothing bad.